That morning, everything had felt normal. Too normal, maybe. Claire texted me just after 10 a.m. Coffee later? Just us. I didn't think much of it. Claire and I had been dancing around the edge of something real for months. Maybe longer. We flirted like it was second nature. Spent weekends together. She even called me her person once. And God help me, I'd been waiting for the day she'd finally drop the act and just say the words. I thought this might be that day. The cafe was the one on 6th and Wallace, the one with the cracked leather booths and scones the size of your hand. She sat by the window, sunlight making gold out of her auburn hair. Her smile was soft, familiar. My heart ached before she even said a word. We made small talk at first, how work was killing her, how her roommate adopted another rescue dog without asking. She laughed. I laughed. It felt like all the other conversations we'd had that led nowhere and everywhere at the same time. And then, somewhere between her picking apart a blueberry muffin and stirring too much sugar into her latte, she said it. I've been thinking about us a lot lately, she began, eyes fixed on her coffee like it might tell her what to say. I leaned in, hopeful. Yeah. She glanced up, biting her lip. I think we're better off as friends. I didn't say anything right away. My brain had heard the words, but refused to process them. I smiled, stupid automatic. Claire kept going. I mean, you're so important to me. You really are. But I think we'd ruin what we have if we tried for more. Each sentence was a punch. Not all at once. Slow, like a bruise rising. I nodded. Played cool. Yeah, no, I get that. Totally. Liar. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine. You mean the world to me, okay? I don't want to lose you. The worst part was, I still wanted to touch her. Still wanted to run my thumb across the inside of her wrist like I used to when we walked side by side and didn't call it anything. I wanted to say, then why aren't I enough? But I just smiled. Hello. Of course. Friends, I said, raising my coffee like we were toasting a mutual decision. We didn't talk much after that. The conversation trailed off like a car running out of gas. She hugged me outside the cafe. Too tight. Too long. One of those apologies people give with their bodies instead of words. When I got home, I stared at my phone for half an hour. Then I opened our thread, years of messages, and began deleting. All the "you up?" texts that turned into 3 a.m. movie nights. All the selfies she sent me in pajamas with captions like, too tired to function, come feed me. Gone. Every flirt, every maybe, we're just really close. Gone. I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I just sat there and emptied her from my digital life like it would help purge her from my real one. Then a new message lit up my screen. Jenna, hey, you okay? I blinked. Claire's cousin. Jenna and I barely talked unless it was in groups. She was the wild one. The one Claire rolled her eyes about when she showed up in crop tops at family BBQs and flirted with every guy in the room, including me sometimes. I stared at her message, fingers hovering. Me? Yeah, I'm good. A lie again. Jenna responded instantly. Claire told me. I just wanted to check in. I didn't answer right away. She sent another text. She's an idiot. And suddenly, I laughed. For the first time all day, I laughed. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Claire across the table again, saying better off as friends, like it was a gift instead of a knife. I read over Jenna's messages again. That last one stayed with me. She's an idiot. It wasn't comforting exactly, but it was something. At 12:47 a.m., Jenna sent one more text. Want to talk? I hesitated for a minute. Then I typed back. Yeah, I'd like that. It was weird how fast Jenna moved. Like she knew the exact beat to follow, how long to wait before asking. Want to come over? Like she wasn't just checking in, but directing the next act of some strange little play. Just to talk, she wrote. I've got wine, and I'm a way better listener than Claire. I hesitated. Honestly, I wasn't sure what I expected. Maybe a quick exchange, some venting, then silence. But there it was, an address I already knew, a night that felt just dangerous enough to say yes to. Jenna lived across town in a small upstairs condo above an art supply shop. The building had character, the kind Claire used to roll her eyes at, too bohemian, too loud, too lived in. But Jenna liked it. I remember her saying once during a family dinner, at least it doesn't pretend to be something it's not. That line stuck with me for some reason. Now, it felt like a siren song. I arrived a little after 1 a.m. The city was quiet, half asleep, the streets painted silver under the streetlights. Jenna opened the door before I even knocked. She must have been waiting. Or watching. She was barefoot, tight black dress, hair pulled up with a few rebellious strands falling against her collarbone. No bra. I didn't mean to notice, or maybe I did, but the fabric clung to her body in that unmistakable way, tracing curves I'd never allowed myself to study. Not when Claire was the goal. You came, she said, voice soft, smoky. Her lips curved upward, but it wasn't quite a smile. More like a dare. You said you had wine. I replied, trying for playful. But even I could hear the edge in my voice, like I wasn't sure if I was allowed to be here. She held the door open wider. And I never lie about wine. Inside, the place smelled like lavender and paint, oils, canvas, heat from the candles flickering along the counter. A half-finished painting sat on an easel in the corner. Two bodies locked in an embrace, messy and beautiful and raw. She caught me looking. Don't judge, she said. That's not finished. I wasn't judging. If anything, it felt like I was walking into someone's diary. I glanced at her again, the dip of her back, the tension in her shoulders, and wondered what the hell I thought I was doing here. She poured 2 glasses of red and handed me one. So, Claire. The name landed between us like a dropped match. I took a sip before answering. Guess you already know. She nodded, sitting cross-legged on the couch, her dress riding up a few inches higher than necessary. I sat across from her in an old armchair that squeaked under me. She's an idiot, Jenna said again. And I don't say that lightly. I love her. I do. But she always needs things clean. Controlled. You scared her. I raised an eyebrow. Scared. She felt too much, she said, swirling the wine in her glass. That's what she told me. Said it felt like if she let herself fall for you, she'd never recover. I didn't know whether to feel flattered or furious. She said that. I asked. She didn't want to hurt you. But I don't think she realized how much she did. Silence. Just the clink of our glasses and the hum of some ambient playlist she had going in the background. Then Jenna leaned forward, her voice softer now. I'm sorry. For what she did. For how it happened. Thanks, I said, setting the glass down. I thought maybe we were building something. Jenna tilted her head. You were. That hung in the air a moment too long. I swallowed hard. Her eyes lingered on me, tracing lines across my face like she was memorizing something. You know, she said, her voice almost a whisper now. I never got why she couldn't see what she had. I looked at her. Really looked. Her lips, the slow pulse at her neck, the fingers curled loosely around her wine glass. Something in me shifted. She saw it, I said. She just didn't want it. Jenna's gaze didn't break. I would have. My heart thumped once, loud, hard, like a warning or a drumbeat calling me toward something dangerous. Her words echoed in my ears long after she said them. I would have, she repeated, and there was heat in it now. Not fire, not yet, but something that could catch if we weren't careful. We stared at each other. I should have stood up. I should have said goodnight. But instead I stayed. And she didn't move either. She leaned forward first. It wasn't much, just the slow shift of her knees unfolding, the gentle tap of her glass on the coffee table, the way her bare feet curled beneath her as she closed the distance between us. But I felt it. In the air, in my chest, in places I hadn't paid attention to since Claire said we were better as friends. We didn't speak. The music from her speaker melted into the background, and time became something soft and bendable. I could still walk out, could stand up, mutter an excuse, pretend this wasn't happening. But I didn't. Instead, I mirrored her, glass down, shoulders forward. And when our eyes met again, something snapped between us, that thin thread of pretend distance, stretched too tight for too long. She reached up first, just her fingertips, grazing my cheek. The lightest touch. Her eyes scanned mine for any sign to stop, but I gave her none. Say something, she whispered, her voice barely louder than a breath. I shouldn't be here, I said. Her hand slid to the back of my neck. But you are. And then her lips were on mine. It started slow, the kiss of someone testing the temperature before diving in. Her mouth was soft, tentative. I don't know who deepened it first. Maybe we both did, hunger meeting hunger. The taste of wine on her lips, the warmth of her breath, it was intoxicating. She swung one leg over me, settling in my lap like it was second nature, like she'd thought about this before. Her dress hiked up, the smooth curve of her thighs brushing against my hands. which somehow found their way to her hips. "Still think you shouldn't be here?" she asked, pulling back just enough to speak. "I don't know what I think," I said honestly. Her eyes flashed. "Let me help with that." She kissed me again, deeper, hungrier. Her body pressed against mine, her hands slipping under my shirt, fingernails trailing along my stomach. Every inch of skin she touched burned. I'd been with women before. Of course I had. But this was different. This wasn't about love, or comfort, or even revenge. It was need. It was every second I'd spent pining for Claire without release. It was every just friends hug that lingered too long. Every almost moment that ended with silence. It was buried frustration, emotional heat looking for somewhere to land. And Jenna, she knew exactly what she was doing. She stood suddenly, offering her hand. "Come here." My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I followed her, down the short hallway to her bedroom. Her bed was unmade, rumpled sheets, a comforter kicked to the side, candles on the dresser, an open window letting in the humid night air. She turned to face me and pulled the black dress over her head in one smooth motion. No bra, as I suspected. No hesitation either. And damn, she was beautiful. Not in that curated, polished way Claire carried herself. Jenna was raw. Messy hair, scattered freckles, slight smudge of eyeliner. But her body radiated confidence, like she knew every inch of herself was wanted, and she wanted to be seen. I stepped closer, hands reaching for her waist, lips drawn back to hers. The kiss turned wild. She moaned softly when I pulled her against me. My hands wandered. Her skin was warm, electric. She clawed at my shirt, tugging it over my head, then let her nails drag down my back as we fell into the bed together. And for a while, there were no thoughts. No guilt. No confusion. Just the sharp gasps, the whispered urgencies, the undeniable friction of two people who knew exactly what they wanted and were tired of pretending otherwise. Jenna moved like she had something to prove. And maybe she did. Maybe this was about more than just me and her. Maybe this was her way of claiming something Claire let go. But in that moment, I didn't care. I let her guide me, consume me, make me forget everything that came before. Afterward, we lay in silence. Her head on my chest, my fingers tracing slow circles along her spine. The room was still, save for the soft hum of the fan overhead. She broke the silence first. "She never deserved you," she murmured. I didn't answer, because I didn't know if that was true. Because part of me still wanted to believe Claire just didn't know what she wanted, not that she'd actively given me up. And because, somehow, what just happened with Jenna felt amazing, but also loaded. Like crossing some invisible line that couldn't be uncrossed. I woke up to the sound of birds. That was the first thing I registered. Not the usual alarm, not city traffic or the vibration of my phone, but the faint chirping outside Jenna's cracked bedroom window. For a second, I forgot where I was. The sheets smelled different. The light in the room was softer, a shade more golden than the harsh white in my own apartment. Her comforter was pulled halfway over me, and the warmth at my side was unmistakably human. Jenna. She was curled beside me, back to my chest, hair a wild mess draped across the pillow. One leg tangled with mine. My arm still rested around her waist like it belonged there. And maybe, for a brief, confusing moment, it did. But reality began to pour in slowly, like cold water dripping down my neck. Claire. Last night. This bed. Her cousin. I eased out from under the covers, careful not to wake her. My jeans were on the floor near the door, my shirt draped over the nightstand. I collected them like stolen evidence. Jenna stirred, but didn't wake, just rolled to her other side and mumbled something incoherent. I stood there for a second in the middle of her room, half-dressed, head pounding gently from wine and whatever the hell else we'd poured into ourselves last night. My reflection in her mirror looked older, less certain, maybe a little ashamed. The sex had been incredible, no question. Raw, uninhibited. But the question now wasn't how it felt. It was why. Was this revenge? Was I trying to hurt Claire by letting myself get devoured by someone she probably never thought I'd look at twice? Or was Jenna just a rebound? Someone who made it easy to forget how badly I'd wanted to be chosen? The thought made my stomach turn. I walked barefoot into the kitchen and poured a glass of water from the sink. The place was a little messy, not dirty, just lived in. Paint brushes in a mason jar. A half-eaten bagel on the counter. I didn't know what to do with myself, so I just stood there, sipping cold water and waiting for something to make sense. You're up early. Her voice behind me was thick with sleep. I turned to find her standing in the doorway, wrapped in a thin cotton robe that left little to the imagination. Her hair was messy, her smile even messier, smug and satisfied. Didn't mean to wake you, I said, setting the glass down. You didn't. She padded barefoot toward the fridge, pulled out a bottle of orange juice, and drank straight from it. You were going to sneak out, huh? No, I lied. She chuckled, clearly not buying it. It's okay. I'm not Claire. I don't need a 5-hour cuddle session and a handwritten thank you note. I tried to laugh, but it got stuck somewhere in my throat. She sat at the counter, crossing her legs slowly. You okay? I don't know, I admitted. I mean, last night was hot as hell, she offered. Yeah, I said, rubbing the back of my neck. But also, unexpected. You didn't plan it? No, neither did I, she said, shrugging. But I don't regret it. I sat down across from her. Do you think Claire would? Jenna narrowed her eyes. That's a weird question. Yeah, I know. You're asking if Claire would be mad that you slept with someone else, she said, sipping from her juice again. But Claire told you she didn't want you. So what does it matter? It was a fair point, but somehow it still did. Did you sleep with me to get back at her? I asked. She didn't flinch. No, I slept with you because I wanted to. You were here. I was here. And it felt real. There was a pause. But, she added, if it stings her ego a little, I won't lose sleep over it. I didn't know whether to admire her honesty or be afraid of it. I don't want to be a pawn, I said. You're not, she replied. Unless you let yourself be. The rest of the morning moved slow. She offered me coffee. I declined. Said I needed to get home, shower, think. She didn't press. Just walked me to the door in that same robe. Hair still tousled, lips still swollen from the night before. Hey, she said, just before I stepped out. Don't overthink it. Kinda my thing, I said, managing half a smile. I know, she replied. It's what makes you you. There was no kiss goodbye. Just a knowing look. The kind you give someone when you've seen them in every possible way. Naked, exposed, vulnerable, and still willing to risk more. When I got home, I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and collapsed onto the couch. My phone buzzed once. Claire, you doing okay? I know yesterday was hard. I stared at the message for a long time. My thumbs hovered. I typed, deleted, retyped. Eventually, I just replied, yeah, I'm okay. Another lie. Because the truth was, I didn't know what I was anymore. The party was already in full swing by the time I arrived. Low lighting, upbeat music, laughter echoing off the walls of some downtown loft that belonged to a friend who made way too much money for how little he worked. It wasn't my scene, not really, but I'd promised Nick I'd show up. Said it'd be good for me, which was code for stop moping like Claire was the last woman on earth. I should have known better. But I came anyway. Drink in hand, I scanned the room for anyone I recognized, and then I saw her. Claire. She was standing near the bar, drink in hand, smiling at something a girl with green hair had just said. She looked the same, soft curls, black jeans, leather boots, but something in her was different too. Lighter, like she'd unloaded something heavy and hadn't picked it back up yet. Her eyes caught mine. For a second, we just stood there, locked in mutual surprise. No anger, no sadness. Just there you are. She offered a small wave. I nodded back, casually, too casually, like I hadn't imagined this exact scenario a dozen times. And then I felt it. A presence. Heat against my side. A perfume I didn't recognize until I did. Jenna. She slid in beside me, dressed in a red wrap dress that left very little to the imagination. Her lips brushed my cheek. Not a kiss, exactly, but close enough to turn a few heads. Well, she whispered. Didn't know Claire would be here. Neither did I said, clearing my throat. She smiled, slow and sharp. How convenient. I could already feel it, the shift in the room. Claire watching from across the space, her expression unreadable. Jenna's arm slipped casually around my waist. She wasn't trying to be subtle. She wasn't trying at all. Jenna, I'm not doing anything, she said innocently. Just saying hi to a friend. That word felt loaded now. Claire didn't approach us. She turned back toward her circle of friends, laughing at something, though I doubted she heard a word of it. She was trying too hard not to look. And failing. Jenna leaned in again. You want me to stop? I didn't say that. But you're thinking it. I glanced at her. She was beautiful, no question. Sexy, magnetic, unpredictable in a way that left you breathless and uncertain all at once. But tonight wasn't about her. Not really. You're making a scene, I said. Good, she replied. The rest of the evening blurred together. Drinks, small talk, pretending not to notice how often Claire's eyes found me from across the room. At one point, I stepped out onto the balcony to breathe. City lights stretched out in every direction. The cool air helped. Jenna joined me a minute later, a fresh drink in hand. You're quiet. Just thinking. She sipped. About her. I didn't answer. You know, she said, turning to lean against the railing. You don't have to feel guilty. She made her choice. And I made mine. Her eyes searched mine. Did you? I didn't have a good answer. I looked down at the street below, the swirl of taillights and bodies and life moving forward without hesitation. I wasn't jealous of it, just tired of standing still. She's not the same, Jenna said suddenly. What do you mean? I mean, she looked at you like she didn't know what to feel. That means she's still feeling something. Yeah, maybe. She'll get over it, Jenna added. And so will you. I glanced at her, her red dress fluttering slightly in the breeze. She wasn't just here for moral support. She was here to mark territory. Whether it was about me, Claire, or some twisted mix of both, I couldn't tell anymore. After an hour, I decided I'd had enough. I told Jenna I was leaving. She offered to come with me. I said no. I needed air. Space. Something that didn't smell like perfume and past decisions. She didn't argue. Just kissed me on the cheek and whispered, "You know where to find me." I stepped outside, the weight of the night settling around my shoulders. I was halfway down the block when my phone buzzed. Claire, you look good tonight. I stared at the screen. Then, another message. You don't have to answer. I just wanted you to know. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I could respond. I could ask her what the hell that meant. If it was closure, regret, or something else entirely. Instead, I slipped the phone back into my pocket. That night, after a shower and a silence I couldn't explain, another message lit up the screen. Jenna, she doesn't deserve you. Come over? I stared at those 6 words, heart thudding. And for reasons I still don't fully understand. I texted back, be there in 20. The thing about doing something in secret is, it doesn't feel real until it's already a habit. That night at Jenna's wasn't a one-time thing. It became a routine. Quiet knocks at her door. Whiskey on her breath. My name whispered in the dark like a promise, or a curse. We never talked much afterward. There was no need to unpack it. We just kept doing it. I told myself I wasn't hiding. I told myself Claire didn't need to know, not because I was ashamed, but because it wasn't her business anymore. Lie. The truth was, I didn't want to see the look on Claire's face if she ever found out. The one that said, you really chose her? But I didn't choose anyone. Not yet. Jenna's place became a safe house for my confusion. A space where no one asked questions. Where she pulled me into bed without needing reasons. She touched me like she was making up for every second Claire ever left me waiting. And I let her. Over and over again. And yet, when it was over, when the sweat dried and the room went quiet, something always lingered. Guilt. Not just toward Claire. Toward myself. Like I was playing a part in someone else's fantasy, waiting for a scene that never arrived. Thinking again, Jenna murmured one night as we lay tangled in sheets that smelled like lavender and sex. I turned my head. What gave me away? You get quiet, she said, propping her chin on my chest. Like you're somewhere else. With someone else. I didn't deny it. What was the point? Still stuck on her. I stared at the ceiling. I don't know. Maybe. She rolled off me and lit a cigarette by the open window, naked and unbothered. Her silhouette glowed orange in the streetlight outside. She threw you away, Jenna said flatly. She had you, and she chose the friend zone. I ran a hand through my hair. Yeah, but I wanted her for a long time. Jenna turned to face me, smoke curling around her lips. And now you have me. The way she said it, it wasn't defensive. It wasn't even possessive. It was factual. I had her. Physically. Night after night. But did I want her? Sometimes. Other times, I wondered if I just wanted the way she made me feel. Wanted, claimed, desired like a fire that never cooled. One afternoon, a mutual friend invited both Claire and me to a group hangout. Trivia night at some divey bar we all used to go to in college. I hesitated, but said yes. So did she. When I walked in, she was already at the booth, sipping something citrusy. She smiled when she saw me. That same soft smile I used to read way too much into. Hey, she said. Hey. She looked good. Really good. And I hated that noticing still made my stomach twist. Her hair was pulled back in a loose braid, a gold ring on her middle finger. Not fancy, just familiar. I remembered the first time she wore it. The week she told me, I made her feel safe. That was before the trivia game started. The group bantered. Claire and I ended up on the same team. She laughed at my dumb answers, bumped her knee against mine under the table. Her arm brushed mine once, maybe twice. None of it was overt. None of it was intentional. But it all felt like before again. And it wrecked me. Because in that 1 hour, Claire felt more intimate than every night I'd spent tangled in Jenna's sheets. On my way home, I didn't go to Jenna's. She texted, "You coming over?" I typed back, "Not tonight. Need some sleep." She didn't reply, and I didn't push. That week, I didn't see her. No late-night visits. No whiskey. No sex. And yet, I missed her. I hated that I missed her. But I did. Maybe it wasn't about Jenna or Claire. Maybe it was about me. What the hell did I even want? The next Friday, Jenna showed up at my door. No texts, no calls, she said, standing on my front step in ripped jeans and a black tank. Didn't realize I was a placeholder. I opened the door wider. "You're not." She stepped inside without waiting for permission. "But I'm not her either, right?" I never said. "You don't have to," she snapped. "Every time I look at you after sex, you're not with me. You're comparing." I didn't respond. Because she wasn't wrong. "I thought this meant something," she said, her voice cracking for the first time. "You acted like it did." I wanted it to, I admitted. I still might. "But only because she didn't choose you," Jenna said. "Not because you chose me." That hurt more than I expected. She turned toward the door. "You know what sucks? I liked you before all this. I saw you. Really saw you. And maybe that's why I let myself fall into your bed." "Jenna." She paused at the doorway. "Figure out what you want, because I'm done being your escape route." Then she was gone. I stood in the hallway, silence swelling around me like smoke after a fire. The taste of her was still on my skin, but it didn't feel like desire anymore. It felt like loss. She found out through someone else. Not a text. Not some dramatic confrontation. Not even Jenna spilling it herself. Which, to her credit, she never did. No, Claire found out in the worst way possible, secondhand. Apparently, someone saw Jenna and me coming out of her building. Someone we all knew. Someone who said something to someone else, who whispered it to Claire over drinks one night. That's how it happens in our circle. Not with explosions, but with quiet, piercing shrapnel. She didn't text. She didn't call. She showed up. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was still in sweats, halfway through reheating takeout when there was a knock at my door. I opened it, and there she was. Hair pulled into a loose bun. No makeup, dark circles under her eyes. Not angry. Not sad. Just still. "You slept with Jenna?" she asked. No hello. No warm-up. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. I just stepped back and let her in. She walked into my apartment like it belonged to someone she didn't know anymore. Her arms folded across her chest, her eyes scanning the space like it might give her answers I couldn't. "I'm guessing it wasn't a one-time thing," she added, her voice low. "No," I said. Silence. God," she said, pacing. "You were in my bed one week, and hers the next?" "That's not fair," I said. She spun around. "Isn't it? You said we were better off as friends. I didn't say go sleep with my cousin. I didn't plan it." Her arms dropped to her sides. "That doesn't make it better." I sat down on the edge of the couch. I was hurt. "You said you didn't want more, and I tried to respect that. I really did. But Jenna was there, and she didn't look at me like I was too much." Claire stared at me, her mouth slightly open, like she wanted to say something. Anything, but couldn't decide on which wound to speak from. "You could have told me," she finally said. "You could have at least warned me. Would it have made a difference?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe not, but it would have felt less like betrayal." "You broke things off." I distanced. "I didn't mean to push you away." Her voice cracked. "I didn't think you'd move on like that. You're the one who said I wasn't what you wanted." She blinked hard. "I didn't mean never." There it was. The truth finally peeling through. "I was scared," she added. "I told myself we were better off as friends, because if we tried for more and it didn't work, I'd lose you. I didn't realize I'd lose you either way." Something twisted in my chest. "And Jenna?" she continued, shaking her head. You knew how complicated she is. You knew what this would look like, what it would feel like. I stood up. It wasn't about you. She looked at me like she couldn't believe I'd said that. Maybe not at first, I said, softening. But it became about you. Everything does. Claire sat down, her fingers laced tightly in her lap. I didn't know how deep it ran, okay? I didn't know what it would feel like to see you look at someone else the way you used to look at me. I didn't know what to say. I'd waited for months, years, even, to hear her speak that way, to admit that something was there. But now that it was real, it just felt too late. Jenna's not you, I said. Her head snapped up. Is that a compliment or an insult? I don't know anymore. She stood, her eyes glassy. Well, whatever it is, you made your choice. Did I? Yes, she snapped. You just didn't know you were doing it. We stood there, inches apart, the air between us thick with all the things we didn't say when it would have mattered. Then, her phone buzzed. She looked at it, then back at me. I shouldn't have come here, she said. I thought maybe we could clear the air, but I think we're just too tangled up now. She headed for the door. I didn't stop her, just watched her pull it open like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Claire, I said, and for the first time that day she paused. I didn't mean to hurt you. She nodded. Doesn't mean you didn't. Then she was gone. I stood in the silence, the takeout now cold on the counter, and tried to catch my breath. My phone buzzed again. Jenna. I heard she found out. I didn't reply. Another message followed. Let her be mad. You're mine now. My thumb hovered. I read it once, then again, and I wasn't sure if I was flattered or trapped. Jenna started calling me hers more often, not in a sweet, joking kind of way, but like she was trying to etch it into stone. Like possession made it more real. I get texts like, mine, still mine, say you're mine. At first, it felt like heat, like the aftermath of sex and secrets and the thrill of something forbidden. But after a while, it started to feel like a collar I hadn't asked for. She became different, not overnight. It was gradual, like vines wrapping around my ankles while I wasn't looking. Every interaction had this edge. If I didn't respond to a text in 10 minutes, I'd get 3 more. If I made plans with friends, especially if Claire was in the mix, I'd get a barrage of questions. Was she there? Did you sit next to her? Do you still want her? And I'd lie, or dodge, or sometimes not answer at all. The thing is, our sex life was still incredible. Better than it should have been, honestly. Jenna had this way of drawing things out of me, things I didn't even know I craved. She knew when to tease, when to take control, when to bite just hard enough. But somewhere along the line, it stopped feeling like chemistry and started feeling like a trap. One night, after a particularly rough day, I told her I wanted a quiet night alone. She showed up anyway, uninvited, buzzed. Holding a six-pack like that erased the fact I said no. I brought the good beer, she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Jenna, I needed space. She pushed past me into the apartment. You've had space. I followed her inside, jaw tight. You can't just show up. I can win your mine. That word again. Mine. Jenna, we need to talk. She stopped mid-step and turned to face me. Oh God, she said, her expression twisting. That tone. That's the I want to break up, but I'm too chicken to say it straight tone. I sighed. I'm not trying to. Bullshit, she cut in. You are. You're trying to slip out the back before things get messy. Well, newsflash, we're already messy. I didn't ask for this to be a thing, I snapped. Oh, I'm sorry, she said, stepping closer, her voice rising. Was it just sex to you? Because that's not how you kissed me. That's not how you whispered things in my ear or clutched me like I was the only thing keeping you sane. I was confused. No, she interrupted, tears springing to her eyes. You were lonely, and I was there, so you let me in. But now she knows. Now Claire's pissed, and suddenly I'm just the mistake you regret. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the silence said more than anything I could have mustered. She laughed bitterly, wiping at her face. God, do you even realize how cruel that is? I never meant to hurt you, I said quietly. But you did, she said. And what's worse, you used me to fill the space she left. And when it wasn't enough, you started pulling away. Like I could feel it. I sat down on the edge of the couch, head in my hands. She stayed standing, arms folded, breathing shaky. I gave you everything, she said. And all I wanted was to be chosen. That hit me harder than I expected. Because I realized I had been waiting to be chosen, too. First by Claire, then by Jenna. But I'd never stopped to ask what I wanted, who I was in all this. I think I lost myself somewhere in all this, I admitted. With Claire. With you. I've been trying to be what everyone wanted, and I don't even know if I like who I became. She knelt in front of me, placing a hand on my knee. Then let me remind you. Let me be the one. I looked at her, her eyes desperate, mouth trembling. She was hurting. I could see it. Maybe she really did fall for me. Maybe this was real, in some version of reality. But it wasn't the kind of real that could last. I don't think I can give you what you want, I said. She blinked hard. So that's it. I don't want to lie anymore. She stood slowly. You already did. For weeks. There was no fight left in her voice. Just resignation. I should have known, she whispered. You still look for her in every room. She turned and walked toward the door. For a second, I thought she might slam it, scream, throw something. But she didn't. She just left. And the silence she left behind was almost worse than the shouting would have been. I sat there for a long time. Not crying. Not moving. Just sitting. The weight of everything pressing down on me like 100 different hands. For a while, I thought Jenna was the spark that pulled me out of heartbreak. Now I realized she was just another fire I wasn't ready to manage. I wasn't expecting her to knock. It had been a week since Jenna walked out of my life. Or maybe I pushed her out, depending on how you look at it. My apartment still smelled faintly like her perfume, the one she left clinging to my pillows and sweaters and skin like some invisible signature. I tried cleaning it away, opening windows, even lighting a candle. Nothing worked. Some things don't just wipe clean. But it wasn't Jenna at the door. It was Claire. She stood there in jeans and an oversized hoodie. No makeup, her hair pulled into a loose braid that looked like it had been undone and redone too many times today. There was no storm in her eyes this time. Just something quieter. Sadder. Realer. Hey, she said. Hey. She hesitated. Can I come in? I stepped aside without answering. She walked past me like she used to, like it was her place too. She stood in the middle of the living room, looking at the same couch where we used to fall asleep watching movies. The same kitchen where she once danced barefoot at midnight after too much wine. You want something to drink? I asked. No, she said. I'm not staying long. I nodded and leaned against the wall. So what's up? She took a breath, a long, careful one. Then, I was wrong. I blinked. About what? About us, she said, eyes locked on mine. I was wrong to push you away, to say we were better off as friends. I said nothing. My chest tightened. I wasn't sure if it was hope or caution. I told myself I was protecting something important, she continued. That if we stayed in that friend zone, I wouldn't lose you completely. But I think I lost you anyway, just slower. I waited, I said. You know I did. I know. She stepped closer. But I wasn't ready to let someone that close. Not even you. Especially not you. Her voice cracked on that last part, and suddenly it all made sense. The retreat, the mixed signals, the wall that always rose just as things started to matter. You were scared, I said. She nodded. I'd never felt anything like what I felt with you. And it terrified me, because I knew, if I let myself fall all the way, it would wreck me if it ever ended. It didn't have to end, I said quietly. But it did, she whispered. And I hate that it was because of me. I walked over to the couch and sat down. She stayed standing. Why now? I asked. Why tell me this now? Because I saw the way Jenna looked at you, she said. And it hit me. Someone else saw what I was too scared to reach for. That wasn't love, I said. It was control. Obsession. A reaction to your rejection, if I'm being honest. Claire walked over and sat beside me, close but not touching. Do you still feel something for me? I turned my head slowly. Do you want me to? That's not an answer. I know, I said. Because I don't know anymore. She looked down. That's fair. I still care, I admitted. You were everything, Claire. For a long time. But now, I'm trying to figure out who I am without chasing someone else's affection. She nodded, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I'm sorry. I know. I really did love you, she said softly. I just didn't know how to show it without feeling like I was losing control of myself. I closed my eyes. I wish you had told me that before. I wish I had too. We sat there in silence for what felt like a lifetime. The quiet wasn't awkward. It was weighted, like everything that had gone unsaid between us finally had space to breathe. Then, gently, she placed her hand on mine. I'm not asking to pick up where we left off, she said. I just needed to tell you the truth. I looked at her. really looked, and for a moment, I saw the version of us that could have been. The one where she wasn't afraid, where I didn't chase, where timing didn't ruin everything. But that wasn't the version we lived. Thank you, I said, squeezing her hand once before letting go. She stood slowly. Take care of yourself, okay? You too. She walked to the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. If things had gone differently. I know, I said. Me too. And then she was gone. This time, I didn't chase after her. I didn't text. I didn't linger in the hallway like I had so many nights before. I just sat on the couch and stared at the space she left behind. She had finally told me the truth. But the thing no one ever tells you is that sometimes the truth comes too late to fix anything. It was quiet the next morning. No texts. No surprise knocks. No drama waiting like a storm outside my window. Just the stillness of an apartment that finally, mercifully, belonged to no one but me. For the first time in weeks, I didn't wake up in someone else's bed or tangled in someone else's mood. I didn't replay conversations or decode what a glance meant. There was no Jenna, no Claire, no one asking for more than I could give. Just me. It felt weird. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, staring out the window at the empty street below. It was one of those rare mornings when the city was still, like the whole world had agreed to pause. And I was grateful for it. I needed the silence. I needed to hear myself think again. Because lately, I hadn't. So much of the last few months had been about them. Claire's indecision, Jenna's fire, their tension, their history, their pull. I'd become a thread in someone else's tug-of-war, stretched thin and fraying. Never in control, just part of the contest. And I let it happen. I let Claire define my worth by whether she wanted me. I let Jenna define my value by whether she could keep me. And somewhere in the middle, I stopped asking what I actually wanted. That morning, I finally did. And the answer surprised me. I wanted peace. Not silence. Not isolation. But peace. The kind that comes when you stop trying to be everything for everyone else. The kind that wraps around you when you finally learn how to be enough for yourself. I picked up my phone, stared at the screen. 2 unread messages. Jenna, hope you're doing okay. Miss you more than I should. Claire, thanks for listening. For not hating me. I mean that. 2 women. 2 histories. Both heavy in different ways. But I didn't text either of them back. Not because I was angry. Not even because I was hurt. Because I finally realized. I didn't know anyone an answer. Not right now. And maybe not ever. Later that day, I packed a bag. Nothing dramatic. Just a change of clothes, my laptop, headphones, a few books I hadn't opened since the chaos began. I booked a cabin a few hours out of town. No Wi-Fi, no distractions, just trees and quiet and a fireplace. Before I left, I deleted our threads. Claire's, Jenna's. Not in anger. Not as punishment. But because I didn't want to carry their words like luggage anymore. Letting go didn't mean erasing what we had. It just meant setting it down. The drive out was long and winding. The kind of road that forces you to slow down. Trees blurring past. Sunlight cutting through clouds like it was trying to remind me that beauty didn't need to be complicated. I got to the cabin just before dark. It was small, 1 room, 1 bed, 1 window that overlooked a forest thick with silence. I built a fire, ate noodles from a can, sat on the porch and watched the stars. And I didn't feel lonely. I felt empty, in the best possible way. Like space was finally clearing inside me for something new. The next morning, I woke up early. Walked a trail behind the cabin. Let the cold air bite at my skin. Thought about who I'd become in the last few months. The parts of myself I liked. The ones I didn't. The version of me that let Claire string me along for years because I thought her love would finally complete me. The version of me that dove into Jenna's fire, hoping passion could fill the void rejection left behind. I didn't like those versions. But I didn't hate them either. They were the parts of me that learned. That bled a little to understand what it meant to heal. And as I stood at the edge of a frozen lake, the air quiet except for the crunch of my boots in the snow, I said something out loud for the first time. I forgive you. I didn't say who it was for. I didn't need to. Maybe it was for Claire. Maybe Jenna. Maybe for the guy I used to be. Maybe all of them. Back at the cabin, I wrote. Nothing profound. Just journal entries. Messy and unfiltered. I wrote about the first time I fell for Claire. The first time Jenna kissed me. The moment I knew neither of them was what I needed. And I wrote about myself. About learning to be still. About finally listening to the voice I kept burying under the noise. The next few days passed slow, soft. like exhaling after a long-held breath. And when I drove back home, I didn't dread walking into the apartment alone. I welcomed it. My phone buzzed once. A new message, this one from a number not saved in my contacts. Hi. I know this is random. I think we met at Nick's party a few months ago. You left your jacket. I kept it. Weird, I know. But maybe coffee sometime? I smiled. And this time, I didn't feel that old panic. That urge to decode, to brace for impact. I didn't feel the weight of expectations or ghosts. Just curiosity. I typed back. Yeah, I'd like that. Then I put my phone down and went back to building my life. This time, from the center out. 3 months. That's how long it had been since I'd seen Claire. Since Jenna walked out. Since I let go of the old versions of myself that lived for someone else's validation. It was both longer and shorter than it felt, like time had folded in on itself and expanded all at once. And in that time, things got quiet. Beautifully, strangely quiet. I didn't chase anyone. Didn't beg for closure. I woke up alone, went to work, cooked for myself, and read books that had been collecting dust on my shelf for over a year. I made space for my thoughts, not just the loud ones, but the small ones too. The ones that used to get drowned out by obsession and expectation. I didn't think about love. Not really. I wasn't searching anymore. But then I met her. Her name was Elise. And it wasn't some grand cinematic moment. No clumsy bumping into each other at a coffee shop. No meet cute worthy of a rom-com. It was simple. Uncomplicated. We were both at Nick's gallery event. He'd invited a few of us out to support a local artist, someone who painted with coffee, actual espresso, and drip techniques on canvas. I was only half paying attention, sipping wine and letting the buzz of voices swirl around me, when someone beside me said, "You know, if you stare long enough, it stops looking like art and starts looking like a mistake." I turned. She was standing there, holding a glass of red, her lips curved into an amused smirk. Her hair was dark and pinned lazily at the back of her neck. Not trying too hard. Not hiding either. "Elise," she said, offering her hand. We shook. Her grip was warm, her eyes steady. We ended up talking for 2 hours. Not about exes. Not about trauma or tangled history or emotional damage disguised as flirtation. We talked about books. About how she'd always wanted to live in Japan for a year. About how she secretly hated coffee but loved the smell. She told me she played cello. I told her I once tried and failed to teach myself guitar off YouTube and almost broke my wrist doing bar chords. It felt easy. No posturing. No undercurrents of tension. Just conversation. Before we left, she gave me her number. "I'm not usually good at texting," she said, "but I'd like to hear from you." I smiled. "I'll make it easy then. I'll call." She blinked. "Old school. I like that." We didn't see each other the next day, or even the day after. But a few days later, we met for coffee, which felt ironic, given her distaste for the stuff. She ordered tea. I got black coffee. We laughed about it. That night, when we parted ways, she didn't kiss me. She said, "Not yet." It wasn't rejection. It wasn't a test. It was clarity. The kind that said, "Let's build this the right way." And God, I was ready for that. Over the next few weeks, we fell into something slow and steady. She never made me guess how she felt. She didn't need me to prove myself or earn her attention by unraveling. She just showed up. Thoughtfully. Honestly. And in that space, I got to do the same. One night, after a movie, we sat on my couch with her legs draped over mine. Her head rested against my shoulder, and I realized something. I hadn't thought about Claire in days. Not even once. And when Jenna's name came to mind, it didn't spark anything painful. Just a soft exhale, like remembering a dream that no longer made sense. I turned to Elise and said, "This feels different." She smiled. "Good different." "Yeah, like I'm not waiting to be tested." She nodded. "That's because I'm not testing you." I kissed her. Slow. Intentional. It wasn't driven by desperation or revenge or the need to be needed. It was born from the present. From the warmth of her hand in mine and the way her lips parted not in invitation but in comfort. That night, when we finally made love, it didn't feel like an escape. It wasn't about forgetting the past or proving anything to the future. It was just us, together, here now. Afterward, she lay beside me, tracing her fingers over my chest. "I think you've been through some things," she said. "Yeah," I whispered. "I have." "You don't have to tell me all of it," she said. "But if you ever want to, I'll listen. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just new. It was real. Not because it was perfect. Not because she was the opposite of Claire or Jenna or anyone else I'd known. But because I wasn't pretending. I wasn't performing. I was finally choosing someone not out of fear, not out of loneliness, but out of peace. And for the first time in a long time, I was being chosen back.